Okay, Bruchim Haba, welcome everyone. We have a very special shiur this morning, Parshas Balak. Bruchim Haba to the Kolel Agor de Perka here, the Monday afternoon national shiur. Many may know that today is our Machon's annual campaign. Baruch Hashem, this year we're renovating and expanding. If anybody would like to participate, charity.com/MMH. Charity.com, CHARIDY.com/MMH. Whatever you could do is greatly appreciated. We have a very interesting topic today, studying perhaps the most well-known Rashi on this Parsha. However, when we look at it upon further analysis, there is a glaring question. Rashi says, why did God rest His Shechina on a Gentile who is wicked? Why would God communicate with Bilaam Harasha? He wasn't just wicked. He was the one who advised Balak how to get Klal Yisrael to sin. He tried to curse us. He was a man who lived with his own animal. Why would God communicate with such an individual? Why did God rest His Shechina on a Gentile, on an idolater, on a wicked person? Says Rashi, Kedei shelo yehi pischain peh la'ovdei koichavim loymar, so that the idolaters don't have the excuse to say, you know why you Jews are righteous? You know why you Jews are meritorious? That's because you had a leader like Moshe Rabbeinu. Ilu hayu lanu neviim, if we would have had prophets, chazarnu lemutav, they would have brought us back to good. Hamid lahem neviim, so therefore God gave them prophets. Veheim pertzu geder olam, and not only did they not improve, not only were they not elevated, but they breached whatever morals, whatever restrictions that they had before. At first, the Gentiles were careful, had safeguards when it comes to matters of immorality. And Bilaam came along and he advised Klal Yisrael, the nations of the world, to give themselves over for lewd acts. So Rashi is telling us that the reason why God communicated with Bilaam is to remove any excuse the nations of the world would claim. They would say, the Jews are only better than us because you gave them a Moshe Rabbeinu. If you gave us a Moshe Rabbeinu, so we also would have been righteous. So God says, look, I'll give you someone on par to Moshe Rabbeinu. Chazal tell us that V'loi kam b'Yisrael navi k'Moshe, b'Yisrael einoi kam. Nobody rivaled Moshe among the Jewish people. Aval b'umay ha'olam kam. But among the nations of the world, there was someone who rivaled Moshe, namely Bilaam. So this always bothered me. I was always troubled by this. Imagine if lahavdil elef alfei avdalos, a baseball team says, you know why the other team is better? Because the other team has 5 All-Stars. That's why they're better. If we would have 5 All-Stars, we would also make the playoffs. So what did the commissioner do? He gives them 5 single A bad baseball players. He said, you don't have an excuse anymore, because you also have players. Yes, shkoyach have players. But they have 5 All-Stars, and we have 5 bad players. So I don't understand. If the whole purpose, if the reason why Hashem gave the nations of the world Bilaam, so that the nations of the world don't have a taina, that hey, they have a Moshe, what do we have? So how does giving them a Bilaam answer the question? How does that remove any excuse that they could claim? Can't they still say, it's very nice you gave us a Bilaam, but if you would have given us a Moshe Rabbeinu, we would have been on a high level, just like the Jewish people? How does giving the nations of the world a Bilaam remove any excuse that they may have? And I saw this question in one of the classic Divrei Torah Svarim. I think it was first called the Torah Kval, Then it was in Lashon HaKodesh, Mayana Shel Torah. Mayana Shel Torah was the classic bar mitzvah gift. If you wanted to give a bar mitzvah boy a gift, you give him the Mayana Shel Torah. It was written by Alexander Zusha Friedman, a Gerach Chassid, who I believe was a chavrusa of my great-grandfather in Sachachav, and he was one of the great activists in pre-war Europe. And by the way, Rabbi George Rushfield, who after he retired and after his passing, I had the privilege of teaching that class in the Young Israel for many years. I believe he even translated it into English. I think, or he took out excerpts of the Sefer Mayana Shel Torah and he translated it into English. Here he brings, the question remains, they would still have an excuse to say, why did Hashem establish for Klal Yisrael a prophet like Moshe? And to us you gave a bum. So I want to share with you a very beautiful idea. This idea is found in none other than 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 places in the writings of the Chasam Sofer, and it's sourced in the teachings of the Chasam Sofer's great Rebbe, Reb Pinchas Horowitz, in his Hakdama to Sefer HaMakneh, as well as in his Sefer on Chumash, Panim Yafos. And it's a very beautiful idea, understanding where the power of a leader comes from, be it a Jewish leader, be it a Gentile leader. You know, sometimes people criticize, they say, well, look, the American president, look at who's running. Well, you may see this in different light after today's share. There's a Gemara in Pesachim. The Gemara in Pesachim, on Daf Kuf Yud Beis and Aleph, tells us, number 3, Chamisha Dvarim Siva Rabbi Akiva es Reb Shimon ben Yochai. 5 things Rabbi Akiva commanded the Rashbi. Kishah Yachavish Beis Asur. And when Rabbi Akiva was in jail, Rabbi Akiva commanded Reb Shimon ben Yochai 5 things. Amar Allah, he said to him, Rabbi, Lamadni Torah, teach me Torah. Reb Shimon ben Yochai said to Rabbi Akiva, teach me Torah. Amar, Rabbi Akiva said, Eini malamdecha, I can't teach you Torah, it's dangerous. Amar Loi, Reb Shimon said, what do you mean it's dangerous? You're in danger anyway, you're in jail anyway, you're incarcerated. You have nothing to lose. If you don't teach me, I'll tell my father Yochai and he'll give you over to the government. Meaning, you're already given over to the government. What are you afraid of? So Rabbi Akiva says, you don't understand, Reb Shimon. You don't think I want to teach you? Listen to these beautiful words. You know, if you have a baby who is hungry and he wants to nurse from the mother, although it may look like the baby is the one that's hungry and the baby is the one who needs to nurse, actually more than the baby needs to suckle, the mother needs to express. More than the baby needs to eat, the mother needs to give. Amar Loi, Rabbi Akiva said, B'ni, Yoiser Mimasha Ha'egal Roitza Linoik, Para Roitza Lahanik. More than the calf wants to nurse, the mother wants to nurse. Meaning, I want to teach you more than you want to learn. The only thing is, I can't. I'm in danger. Amar Loi, so the Rashbi said, Umi b'sakana. But in this case, whose life is in danger? Your life's not in danger because you're already in jail. I'm the one who's endangering my life. V'halo yegel b'sakana. So Rabbi Akiva began to teach Reb Shimon ben Yochai. One of the things he taught was, if you want your teachings to be listened to, don't say it's yours, hinge it on someone greater than you. Okay. Says Gemara in Tainus on Daf Zayin, also a very beautiful Gemara. V'hainu da'amar Rabbi Chanina, Harbe lamadati me Rabboisai. I learned a lot from my teachers. Umechaverai yoisem me Rabboisai, from my friends more than my teachers. Umi talmida yoisem mikulan, and from my students, I learned more than from anyone. Let's analyze that. Let's study that. What did he mean? I learned the most from my Rabbeim, more than that, my friends, and more than anybody, my students. So the Hamakne, the Hafla, brings really a astonishing presentation about the dedication of a Rebbe, what it means to be a teacher, and what is a leader in Klal Yisrael. And from there we're going to learn what is a leader in general. You know, the last couple of weeks, especially the last couple of days, it really put into sharp highlight, you know, who will be the next leader of the United States of America, the elections, and this will provide us a perspective on selecting a leader. The Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, the pasuk says, Torah yevakshu mipihu ki malach Hashem tzavakosu. Seek out Torah from his mouth because he's a heavenly angel. Im doime harav l'malach Hashem tzavakos, Torah yevakshu mipihu. If a Rebbe is like an angel of God, you should seek out Torah from his mouth. You ever think about that? What does that mean if your Rebbe is like an angel, you should seek out Torah from him? In what way? How could any Rebbe be like an angel? No Rebbe is like an angel. By the way, for those of you in Kew Garden Hills, I don't know if you remember, there was a man, David Cooperman, who was a philanthropist, and he would say as follows. He would say, you know how to choose a Rebbe? He should be like an angel. That we know three things about an angel. Number one, they have Pneihem Pnei Adam. Their face is the face of the human. Meaning, they should be human. They should be down to earth. They shouldn't be in the heavens. Pneihem Pnei Adam. Secondly, V'ragleihem Regel Yeshara. They should be straight. They should be a straight shooter. Not deceitful, not devious. And number three, the angels have 6 wings. With 2 they cover their feet, with 2 they cover their face, and with 2 they flap their wings. Meaning, out of their 6 wings, they only make noise with 2 of them. The other 4, they cover themselves up. So too, a Rebbe, he's not going to show you everything in his arsenal. He's not going to let you know about everything that he accomplishes. So those are the 3 characteristics of a Rebbe. But the Hafla has a different interpretation. We know that the basic difference between man and angel is that man is a holiest. A human being has the capacity to go from madrega to madrega, from level to level, to rise up, to go mechayel el chayel. Masha'in kain, an angel is an oimed. An angel is stationary. An Adam, says the Hafla, is called, so an Adam is called a hoilech, and a Malach is called a oimed, like it says in Zechariah, v'nasati l'cha malchim, bein ha'oimdim ha'ela. So an Adam is called a hoilech by being involved in learning Torah. He's elevated daily from madrega to madrega, like it says, Yom liyom yabia oimer, Yom liyom yabia oimer. And the Malachim are called oimdim. They stay on one madrega. That's why it says in Tehillim, we say this every morning, Yahalalu Hashem Hashem, ki hu tziva v'nevro, v'yamideim la'ad li'olam. What does that mean? They stand forever like at the time of their creation. Angels are always oimdim. And it says, Ki tzva hashamayim, Yahalu es Hashem, al asher tziva v'nevro. Now, the angels are very happy that God created them as an oimed. Look at the pasuk, Yahalalu Hashem Hashem, ki hu tziva v'nevro, v'yamideim la'ad li'olam. Because malachim are oimdim, therefore they're very grateful to Hashem that Hashem created them that way. Because we know there's an idea that for some people, they're better off not being created, because when a person is created, they have their propensity to sin, as opposed to the Malachi Hashares, who are stationary in their Maila. So they could praise Hashem for their creation. Think about it. Ki hu tziva v'nivro. Yahalalu Hashem Hashem. Ki hu tziva v'nivro. Why? Vayamidem la'ad la'olam. Says the great Hafla, only Malachim could praise Hashem for creating them. Because for man could say, hey God, maybe I'd be better off not being created. But angels who are oimdim and they can never descend, they could thank Hashem for being created. When Rabbi Yochanan says that your Rebbe should be like a malach, what that means, that a Rebbe, at the time that he's teaching his Talmidim, Yasim kal magamas panav lahalis is Talmidav. He should put all of his strength into elevating the students, to showing them panim yafais, and he should not be thinking about his own aliyah. Because by focusing on your own aliyah, it is a detraction of the aliyah of one's students. So therefore you need to be like a malach at that moment. A malach is an oimed. The Rav should not think, the Rebbe should not think, I shouldn't be teaching this, I shouldn't be answering this question, I shouldn't be explaining this because it's taking away from my own growth. No, when a Rebbe is teaching the Talmidim, he has to be like a malach. What does it mean like a malach? He has to think, this is not a time for my growth. Right now I'm stationary and I'm giving myself over entirely to Bimala the Talmidim. The Hafla says, this is what it means. Batach ba lev ba'ala v'shalal lo yachsar. Rashi says in Parsha B'haloischa, on the words, that if the Rebbe thinks that I'm just going to focus on the students, then Hashem will bestow upon the Rebbe that he will not lose out. But now the Hafla says something incredible. Not only does a Rebbe who is wholeheartedly focused on his Talmidim, not only will he not lose out, he will actually gain. The Rebbe who gives up of his own ruchnias to teach his Talmidim, v'lo yoid ela she'amru Chazal, mi Talmidai yoiser mikulam. Chazal say, from my students, more than anyone. And the reason is, Chazal say, it's very interesting, that a person cannot learn from any Rebbe. A person cannot learn from any rabbi. A person has to learn from a Rebbe who is Mishoresh Nishmasai. What does that mean, Mishoresh Nishmasai? Everybody's soul is rooted in a certain tree, in a certain spiritual entity. For a student to be successful in learning, their soul should be rooted in the same Shoresh Neshama as the Rebbe. The Rebbe and the student, for the student to be successful, the student should be, so to speak, rooted in the same entity that the Rebbe's soul is in. And thereby, when the Ribbon Shem is mashpia Torah to the Rebbe, the Ribbon Shem is mashpia Torah. Hashem, let's say the Rebbe, his name is Rabbi so-and-so. Hashem gives to Rabbi so-and-so the Torah for him and all of his Talmidim. Meaning the Torah that Hashem is mashpia on a Rebbe is the Torah that this Rebbe needs to give to his Talmidim. So if the Rebbe, let's say, here's the mashal, a mother who has a little baby, a tiny little baby, is going to have very little milk. A mother who has a 11-pound baby, she's going to have more milk. The milk given to the mother is not the milk that the mother needs. The milk given to the mother is the milk the baby needs. You hear this? The Torah given to a Rebbe is not the Torah the Rebbe needs. The Torah given to the Rebbe is the Torah the students need. That's why the connection of the Talmidim to the Rebbe is what elicits that the Rebbe should gain Torah from Shamayim. The same way, if you have a hungry baby, the mother is going to be given more milk. If you have students who are more mevakshim, the Rebbe is going to have more Torah. Says a Hafla, The Chacham is makabel all the chelkei HaTorah of the Talmidim and is mashpia to each one, like I wrote elsewhere on the pasuk v'Avraham zakein ba bayamim. Chazal say he was zakein v'yoshev b'yeshiva, and he was zoichet to be mashpia to his students, to bequeath to each one their share in Torah. This is what it means. Vashem beirach es Avraham ba'koil. Avraham was the channel, the tzinar, through which he was makabel all the various chalakim of Torah of his students to be mashpia to each one their chelak. This is what it means. Ezehu chacham haloi meid mikol adam. Listen carefully. Even though the wise man is mashpia to his talmidim, but since he's makabel the chelak of the talmidim to give to them, it's as if he's learning it from them. So who's teaching who? Who's teaching who? It looks like the Rebbe is teaching the Talmidim, but the Talmidim are teaching the Rebbe, because the Rebbe only gets what the Talmidim need. So in fact, the students are teaching the Rebbe, because without the students, the Rebbe wouldn't get it. So, Ezehu Chacham haloi mikol adam. The Rebbe has to know he's learning from the students. Just like the mother understands, God is not giving the mother milk because the mother's thirsty. God's giving the mother milk because for the baby. The Rebbe Shem gives the Rebbe Torah because of the Talmidim. So it's like they're teaching him. It's similar to what Chazal say. More than the wealthy man does for the poor man does to the wealthy man. The poor man makes him wealthy. Think about this. Why does God give this rich man money? It's not for him. He doesn't need it. What does he need it? What's he going to do with $1 billion? God gave him $1 billion to give to this yeshiva and to this cause and to this ani. So the ani is making him wealthy. Now, so you say, why do we call it more than the poor man, the rich man does for the poor man does for the rich man? Because what the rich man does for the poor man is revealed. But what the poor man does for the rich man is matan b'seiser. Think about it this way. When the rich man gives the poor man $1 million, everyone knows about it, so big deal. It's mitigated. But when the poor man causes the rich man to have the money, he's giving the rich man matan b'seiser. So you have two guys. You have Rothschild, and you have, the ani ve'evyon. God gives Rothschild $1 million because of the ani ve'evyon, and Rothschild gives the ani ve'evyon some of the money. So who's doing more for who? When Rothschild gives the poor man, it's begaloi. Everybody knows about it, so it's mitigated. It's not as valuable in the heavens. But when the poor man causes Rothschild to have the money, he's giving him matan b'seiser. Because nobody knows where Rothschild got it from. That's the highest level of tzedakah. The same thing with the Chacham. It looks like the big deal. The Chacham is teaching. So what? It's public. It's mitigated. But the fact that someone is a erstwhile student, which therefore because of this mevakesh, Hashem gives the Rebbe in order to give over to the student, that student is actually doing more for the Rebbe than the Rebbe does for the student. And this is a principle that the Panim Yafos, the Hafla, reiterates in his commentary to Chayesara on the pasuk of Avram Zakein Bayamim, Vashem Berachas Avraham Ba'koil, and who blessed Avraham Ba'koil? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Hafla again says that in the lifetime of our forefathers, the yeshiva never stopped from them. Avraham was a zaken v'yoshev b'yeshiva, shenemar v'Avram zaken. Chazal say Ezehu Chacham haloi mikol adam. Chazal say mitalmid hayos mikulam. And again, the Hafla reiterates that a person can't learn from anybody, because the students, their neshama is hewn out from the shoresh, which is the soul of the Rav who teaches them, and it's impossible for him to makabel chachma. One can only be makabel chachma from a tzinar, which is misharish neshmasai. So when Hashem wants to be mashpia to his talmidim, each one their chelek of chachma, he's mashpia derech hatzinar, which is the shayrash haneshama of the chacham. So because of the students, Hashem is mashpia to the Rebbe. This is what it means. Ezehu chacham haloi mikol adam. He's meka. Ezehu chacham haloi made mikol adam. Because the more students you have, the more people you're going to learn from. Not the other way around. The more Talmidim you could teach, the more the Rebbe will learn, because the Rebbe gets the chalakim of Torah from the Talmidim. This is what it means in davening. V'ha'er einenu b'sorasecha. Even though, for a person whose intelligence is very minimal, unless somebody's mashpia on them, we're mispalel, Hashem should illuminate the eyes of the chachamim so that each chacham could get the chalakim necessary for the talmidim. This is the reason why when the Rebbe doesn't want to teach the students, his punishment is his chachma leaves, because he closes up the channel, the tzinar. So the channel is closed. This is what it means in Sanhedrin, Kol hamoinea halacha mitalmid. Even the embryos in their mother's womb curse them. Why? Why would the embryos curse the Rebbe who refrains from teaching to the student? Says the Panim Yafais, because once the root, which is the neshama, the chacham, which encompasses many neshamas, closes up, so the ubarim b'mei iman, because we know the embryos are taught the whole Torah. But if the Rebbe doesn't want to teach and the shayresh is closed up, so then the embryos can't be makabel, because they're from the same sharish haneshama of the chacham. This is the meaning of even the ubarim shebemei iman curse the Rebbe. Okay. This idea and this notion that what a Rebbe teaches is only given to the Rebbe and only bequeathed to the Rebbe, and only the influence from Shemayim only comes to the Rebbe through the medium of the student, is an idea that the Chasam Sofer writes in at least 5 places. In his drashas Chelik Aleph, page Lamed, he says, look at what my Rebbe the Hafla writes, and I'm going to add to it. He says, any student that prepares himself to listen, to hear, to accept from the Rebbe, immediately there's a shefa eloki added to the student. Added to the Rebbe. And then from the Rebbe to the student. In other words, when a student comes before a Rebbe and is seeking the Torah, that is the Pesach, that is the channel with which Ribbon Shem is mashpia Torah on the Rebbe. The Chasam Sofer says this is what it means: Ha'azinu hashamayim va'ada beira v'sishma ha'aretz imrefi. He says the shamayim is mashpia on the aretz. The aretz is makabel; it receives the shefa from shamayim. So too, a Talmud, by preparing himself to tilt his ear, to absorb and to listen to the Torah of the Rebbe, that is the shamayim. That's mashpia on the Rav. The student is actually influencing the Rebbe. And then when the Rebbe is mashpia on the Talmud, now the student becomes the aretz, and the Rebbe becomes the shamayim. This is what Moshe says to Klal Yisrael. Ha'azinu, tilt your ears. Ha'azinu hashamayim, because then you will be like the heavens that are mashpia to me, and then you will revert back to being the aretz by being mekabel from me. Likewise, Drashas Chasam Sofer, Chilek Beis, he says Chasam Sofer, the Kfar Kosav Makam Acher, the Hashpa. I already wrote elsewhere that the influence Shemashpia LeTalmidim, Hu Nimshal Bekra L'chol Hanacholim Holchim Alayam V'Hayam Einenu Malei Al Mekoim Shanacholim Holchim Sham Heim Shavim Alechas. The mashal of one who's mashpia to to Talmidim is compared to like all the rivers go to the sea and the sea is never full. The inyan is, the more desire that the Talmidim have to be mekabel from the Rebbe, the more the students have a cheshek to be mekabel from the Rebbe, the Rebbe is moisif lahashpia. The Rebbe could influence more, and the more he influences, the more the mayonei shamayim will open up. In other words, the more the students increase their cheshek to mekabel from their Rebbe, the Rebbe could teach more, and the more he teaches, the more the shamayim will open up to influence the Rebbe. Likewise, in Parshas Bahaloischa, Chasam Sofer says on the Psukim, bring the Leviim before the Oyel Mayed and gather all the community of Bnei Yisrael, and bring the Leviim close before Hashem, and the Bnei Yisrael will lean their hands on the Leviim, and Aaron will wave his hands before Hashem from the Bnei Yisrael, and he will do the service of the Avodas Hashem. Says a holy Chasam Sofer, this is a remez, that when the appointed leader is at the helm, he increases strength in Hashem, the people follow him, the more they follow him, the more they want to gain from him. In that merit, the Rebbe is zoicha to greater strength, and then he can influence them more. And then they become stronger, and they have more desire, and then they influence the Rebbe, and the Rebbe can teach more. So basically, the Rebbe and the students have this mutual relationship where the more the students want to gain, the more Hashem gives the Rebbe. The more Hashem gives the Rebbe, the more the Rebbe can give the students. The more the students gain, the more they want, so the more Hashem gives the Rebbe. And again, this is an idea that the Chasam Sofer reads into the Psukim. Furthermore, in Parsha Tetzaveh, on the Pasuk, Oilas Tamid L'doiroi Seichem Pesach HaYamoyed L'fnei Hashem Asher Yivoi Lechem Shama L'daber Elecha. Chasam Sofer says like this. He wants to know why in the beginning it says Shama. Asher Yivoi Lechem Shama L'daber Elecha Sham. Why does it first say Shama b'lashon nekeva and then Sham b'lashon zachar? And the Chasam Sofer says as follows: when a person is misaking themselves, Hashem prepares for them Talmidim who are worthy to receive, and then through the Talmidim he's zoicha to be mashpia more, because the Talmidim is the greatest zechus, because b'zechus ha-Talmidim, which are Yosem Mikulam. So now that he knows more, he becomes like a Mayan HaMiskaber. So now the Talmidim are elevated, they could receive more, and they want more, so they're mashpia on the Rebbe, so Hashem could give the Rebbe more. So at first, friends, it says Shama. At first, the pasuk says, L'fnei Hashem asher yivoi lechem shama azmin lecha talmidim mekablim shem bechinas shama. I'll give you students who will receive from you bebechinas nekeva. But that will make it that you will turn sham. Well, that will influence you to be able to give further bebechinas zachar. That the teacher will be able to have more influence of kedusha to be able to give to the talmidim. And then finally, on the pasuk, V'yasa ka purest kulay zav alav milmala, which is a remez to the mayach and the machshava of a Talmid Chacham, that it should be kulay kadosh, and from there emanates two kruvim who are two talmidim that chas v'sham not to learn by oneself, but rather they learn together b'halacha, and they face the kaporas, which is the Rebbe, and they look at the Rebbe, and when they look at the Rebbe, in that merit, the Rebbe is strengthened, and then we put into the Aron the Luchais, because after the Rebbe teaches the Talmidim, he becomes more wise, because through them, he is elevated. Ki mitamidim yosem mikulam. Rabbi Say, from all of this we learn a very great principle. And that is, what is a Rebbe? The answer is, a Rebbe is the receptacle in which Hashem places the Torah that the students need. Hashem gives the leader the abilities and the talents and the chachma and the information that the students need and the students want. The Rebbe is a mere reflection of the Talmidim. If you wanted to know what's a leader is just a reflection of the people. And if people say, well, look at the leaders that we have today. Look at the candidates that we have today. This is not like in the good old, we don't have George Washington anymore. We don't have Abraham Lincoln. We don't even have Ronald Reagan. No kidding. Because they're just a reflection of the generation you live in. So, enough said. Nothing more needs to be said. This is not just their own independent entity. The entity of the leader is a mere reflection of the people they lead. Coming back to the original question, we asked if the whole reason why Hashem gave the nations of the world Bilaam is because otherwise they would say, well, if we had a leader, then we would also do tshuva. So Hashem, why didn't you give us Moshe Rabbeinu? Then we would also be great. Hashem says, there's no entity Moshe Rabbeinu. I gave the Jewish people a vessel of prophecy. And when that vessel of prophecy led Klal Yisrael as a reflection of the Jewish people, that was Moshe. But you, nations of the world, I gave you the same level vessel. Elamai, it became a Bilaam. Why do you think it became a Bilaam? Because it was merely a reflection of your desire. So your excuse is silenced. You don't tell me if I would have given you a Moshe, then you would have been inspired to tshuva. I did give you something of the equivalency of what I gave Bnei Yisrael. But when I gave Klal Yisrael this type of vessel as a reflection of the students that this leader would teach, it was the great entity called Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Shakol Keneged Shishim Riboy Shel Yisrael. I gave you, nations of the world, the same exact thing. It turned into a Bilaam because you guys are Bilaams. That's why. And this is the idea that I think we see from all of these sources in the Hafla and the Chasam Sofer, and I believe is also spelled out in this cute short vart of the Mayana Shal Torah, where he writes, Anshe Hashem HaGdolim shall kol am einam begeder prat b'fnei atzmai. The great leaders of any nation are not details unto themselves. Ela mishavim mikoychoysa ruchanim shel ha'am. They are the conglomerate and the creation of the spiritual capacity of the nation they lead. Shehem misrachazim u'mizgalmim ba'adam echad. You want to know who your president is, what a presidential candidate is? It is a conglomeration and a concretization and a gathering and a composite of the people they lead. So you might think twice before you criticize the mental acuity, the decency and the dignity of your candidate, because they are just a mirror of the people that they lead. But from the spiritual strengths and talents of the Jewish people, we created a Moshe Rabbeinu. but from the spiritual abilities and capacities of the nations of the world, it created a Bilaam. Hare Mamela Nismu called Hanasem Shomas. Mamela, the claims of the nations of the world are silenced. They said, if only we would have had a Moshe. Hashem says, I gave you the same entity as a Moshe. Look what you turned it into. Amnam nitan lahem navi. It was given to them a prophet. Achu hafach li as Bilaam Rasha. Look what happened when I gave you. Don't you come and say, if only I would have given you. I gave you. Look what you did to it. And that's actually a very powerful, compelling, and frightening idea. And when you look at various leaders of countries around the world, look no further than your own. What does that tell us about our own society? And nevertheless, our sages teach us, have a mispalel b'shalom shel malchus. It's very important to pray for the welfare of the government. Shel u'malehem ish esreel chayim b'lai. Without a stable government, then there's anarchy and chaos. But nevertheless, when you look at the character and personality, it's somewhat of a reality check and wake-up call. Rabbi Isai, have yourselves a wonderful day. Again, we have a couple hours left to our campaign, charity.com/MMH. Thank you so much. Bracha v'atzlacha. Kol tov. Yeah, I'll tell you the truth. Honestly, when I was thinking